Encampment updates for Memorial, McGill, and Windsor. Emergency rooms closed in the BC interior, and the NDP government says they're working on it. More than 500 people to lose their housing at the end of the month as a government contract expires. Canada to purchase new submarines for all the wars we are fighting. And Sudanese leadership welcome highest state visit since the start of the civil war. Good morning. It's Thursday, July 11th. I'm Nora. Here are your headlines. Let's start today in St. John's, where pro-Palestinian activists set up a new encampment just days after cops broke up an encampment there and arrested 3 students. The article written by the Canadian Press is written from the perspective of the university. The protesters sound like a nuisance, and the cops in the university admin are trying to just keep them away from campus. For example, this, quote, university spokesman Chad Pelly said students had a protest in the morning, but did not set up a new encampment, adding that no protesters have slept on campus since Friday, when the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary had said it assisted campus security in escorting 3 protesters from the Arts and Administration building, unquote. Man, you can't buy that kind of PR. The encampment had been set up for 45 days. Memorial moved to shut it down once the Ontario Superior Court decision came out that greenlighted the University of Toronto to dismantle the encampment there. Meanwhile, Montreal cops wearing fatigues closed down adjacent streets to McGill yesterday morning to shut down their encampment. Rent-a-cops from the company Serco accompanied them. The group showed up at 4:30 a.m. to clear the camp, reports the Montreal Gazette. The university hired Serco to, quote-unquote, investigate vandalism on campus, which is, what? Why would they spend student tuition fees to hire mercenaries to do that? Don't they have their own security, or don't the police do that kind of thing? Or anyway, okay. They used bulldozers to clear the camp, and they destroyed a lot of what had been built over the past several weeks in clearing it. Here is what the encampment issued as a statement. Quote, we, the students who set up the encampment, have made it clear from its first day of inception that we are willing to pack up and go home so long as the university commits to divesting from companies complicit in war and genocide, the spokesperson said. We have to ask ourselves, why is the administration more committed to maintaining its ties with these companies than they are to reaching a peaceful end to the encampment, unquote. Now, there has been some good news in the campus encampment world. Students at the University of Windsor reached a deal with their administration to end their encampment. The students were able to get the university to commit to more anti-racism initiatives, support students on campus impacted by the genocidal attack on Gaza, annual disclosures of direct and indirect fund investments, and quote-unquote responsible investing, reports CBC. The students also got some kind of agreement for an institutional boycott of Israeli institutions until, quote, the right of Palestinian self-determination has been realized, unquote. The Windsor encampment was set up on May 13th. 2 days ago, Israel struck a small soccer game among refugee teenagers, killing dozens of people. Next to Merritt and Williams Lake in British Columbia, where emergency rooms have been shut down for multiple days at a time due to workers being sick. Lisa Stacey from CTV News reminds readers that this was occurring at a time where a heat wave was sending more people to hospital than usual. Health Minister Adrian Dix explained that when people call in sick, which is something that they should do when they're sick, the system can't absorb them. It's a good example of neoliberal logic from the NDP. You should be able to take a sick day, but the system doesn't actually have enough slack in it to make sure that care can be maintained. There are an average 20,000 workers each week calling in sick. Stacey doesn't report what is considered normal at this time of year, but before the pandemic, absences would average around 9,000 people per week. They don't say whether or not this is for the same period. Like, is that 9,000 people on average always in July or in March or what? For both communities, people have been told to go to hospitals that are more than 100 kilometers away. Now to Cornwall, Ontario, where more than 500 people who are living in a hotel are not sure what will happen to them when July runs out. Guy Quenneville from CBC News is reporting that the people are all asylum seekers. They had been given temporary housing while they waited for their refugee claims. Immigration and Refugee Canada gave a contract to a company called Dev Hotel and Conference Centre to house these people. Now, IRCC has announced that it is not going to renew its contract with Dev. IRCC didn't explain why or agree to an interview with CBC. They issued a statement to say that the contract will expire as it was set to expire at the end of the month. The Dev Centre also refused to be interviewed. They responded to Quenneville through a PR agency that said that IRCC manages the program. The center was set up in 2021 during the pandemic as a way to keep people safe and housed, especially given the housing crisis. At the site, there have been job-seeking services, language training, and even a school set up for the children who live there. Of the more than 500 people who live there, 220 people living there are working jobs. Now, if you're wondering if Canada has the money to help these people in Cornwall, the answer is yes, and we will be spending that money on new submarines. Military stenographer and CBC guy Murray Brewster reported that, quote, Canada definitely plans to move forward with the purchase of new submarines, unquote. Not sure why the word definitely is in there, considering that this was the announcement and the way that these things go, anything is as definite as anything could be, but okay. He explains that Canada has, quote, spoken only about the possibility, unquote, of getting new subs. So definitely, as in actually they're just making an announcement now. So definitely, I guess, it's for sure going to happen, except we have no details. Brewster got an inside guy to tell him anonymously that no one will say publicly what the cost will be, when the subs will be ready, or how many will be ordered. The subs will have to be built in another country, as no company in Canada has the capacity to make subs. Germany and Norway say Canada can get in on their new sub-building program. South Korea is considering setting up a factory in Canada to build possible new subs. Maybe like the electric vehicle thing that they're also doing. That proved lucrative. And Sweden is interested too. It takes until the end of the article to find out how many subs Canada actually currently has. The number is 4. We have 4 submarines. They were bought in the late 1990s for some reason from the British. And finally, for the first time since the Civil War started, a high-ranking foreign official has met with Sudan's leadership. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed met with Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Sudan's chief army general. The two met at Port Sudan, where the Sudanese military headquarters are. The purpose of the meeting was to talk about peace and security. Al Jazeera reports that there was no public priorities or solutions that came out of the meeting. Al-Burhan has accused regional leaders of siding with the Rapid Support Forces, which is the group that the Sudanese military is currently at war with. There is the possibility of talks being hosted in Uganda between the two sides. Some 10 million people have been forced from their homes since the beginning of this war. 7.7 million people have been displaced in Sudan, and 2 million people have fled, notably to Egypt, Chad, Centrafrique, and Ethiopia. Those are your headlines for Thursday, July 11th. I'm Nora. Hey, I know that at least one listener did not get the news about the listeriosis outbreak in the Silk non-milk beverages. I hope he's doing okay. I hope you're all doing okay. I hope no one got too sick from this. It's always concerning when a massive outbreak like this happens and poisons so many people, and it makes you wonder if the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is doing their job on compliance and how companies are allowing these things to happen. You are listening to this podcast at sandynora.com, on the Real News Network podcast feed, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.